Welcome to Room 101 at Harrigan Compound West. It's story time. So this week we're back to a Latakia blend. This time John Cotton's double pressed Latakia. And this one's relatively new to market. I never tried the original. It was apparently John Cotton did some business back in the 1980s. And of course, that's really before I ever smoked a pipe. Almost before, another story for another time, about me, pipes, and about 1988. The John Cottons that we get now are resuscitated by Ross Willett, the same way that Greg Peace managed to get a bunch of old blends back on the market, so too Ross. And Ross Willett's blends are very, very good. I would put him up against anybody. And these John Cottons double pressed that he's got, and there's a double press Kentucky, right? And 3 or 4 different versions. A very nice entry into the tobacco market. I've enjoyed every single one that I've tried, probably this one most of all, but I am quite the aficionado of Latakias, and there's almost none of them that I don't like, at least to some degree. Anyway, last week I talked to you about my friend and former roommate, Benjamin Paul Aaron Boyce. Never trust a man with 4 names. And it got me thinking a little bit about my time in Iraq and about probably the most surprising day I had there. And there were a number of days that were strange and a number of days that were surprising and some that were just downright sad, just the way you would expect. But there is one day that stands above all of the others, and probably because of my impaired sleep reading of a text message the night before. So even now, I think I'm on 12 different pills to try and get me to sleep every night, and even those don't really get the job done. So by the time I'm asleep, I've probably wrestled with pharmaceuticals to such a degree that would stumble over a moose, and yet it never really gets to me. So I'm sleeping one night, and I wake up as I'm wont to do. And it's the middle of the night, probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and a couple hours before I have to be awake for work. And I see my phone on my nightstand next to me flashing that I had a text. Not surprising, I guess. And yes, I got texts. I didn't get a lot of phone calls, but I got plenty of texts and emails and this sort of thing. So the texts always worked. And I pulled up my phone and I looked at it, and what I read was Obama shot, dead. And I thought, oh my God, President Joe Biden. I tried to process that for a minute and couldn't. And I said, nothing I could do about this right now. Take a look at it in the morning. And I woke up, and as you come to your senses in the morning, you realize that you remember something from late last night. And I thought, oh God, I really need to figure out what the hell's going on. So I went to the office, which is the next room over, and busted out my computer and started looking at things, and it wasn't Obama at all, as you all, of course, know. It was Osama bin Laden. And I thought, okay, we don't have President Joe Biden. This is not a catastrophe. But Osama bin Laden, what's that going to make my life like here in the Middle East? And all of a sudden I got a little concerned. And I thought, well, if it's going to be anywhere, it's going to be at the university, and it's going to be early. If it's bad, it's going to be bad right from the beginning. So I did what I could to get ready earlier than is normally the case. I used to aim for a 10 o'clock in the morning show up time. But I got there an hour or so earlier this time. I just kind of rushed my way through the morning routine and made my way to campus. And I didn't know what to think. When I got to campus, everything looked like normal. But I was outside, and as I think I've told you before, it was to get through a checkpoint to get onto campus, where they would take my bags and wave a wand about and these sorts of things. It was just enough of an imposition to kind of irritate you as you got to work every day. But this day, everything seemed to be working fine. None of the grown men who were manning that tent seemed to think anything was all that bad. Good sign for me. And then I got onto campus. And I looked around, and it wasn't business as usual. Students were huddled together here and there, groups of 4 and 8, and just look around, and it looked different. And it was pretty clear that they were all talking about what had happened. And then probably the most politically active student we had, he came running up to me. And I thought, oh boy, here it comes. And it didn't come at all, not like I had expected it might. He grabbed me by the shoulders and he shook me and he said, "Sir, isn't this great news?" And I thought, what the hell is that all about? And I said, well, I think so, but why do you think so? And he said, this man has been making a mockery of our religion for all these years, and now people won't think we're all crazy. And that kind of took me off my feet a little bit, not what I was expecting to get at all. But as I walked through all the classrooms that day, all the hallways, everybody was of a similar mind. They were all kind of happy that they wouldn't be called to answer for his transgressions. Which, if you think about it, is more than a little unfair in the first instance. Most of them, dare I say almost all of them, want exactly what everybody else in the entire world wants. They want to live their lives freely and independently and without fear, in such a way that they can take care of themselves and their families, and they could have children and these sorts of things. And in the West, we take that for granted because it's always so easy here. Well, it's not that easy everywhere else. It's deeply problematic in a number of places, not the least of which in Iraq, where I lived and where I came to be quite fond of my Kurdish hosts. And when I got to campus and I saw them happy like that, it was actually the first time that I had seen universal happiness in that place. It was a stern place. It was kind of unpleasant in a lot of ways. I've said often, and I think this gets right to the heart of things, right, that you never saw people smiling. People were not happy. You never saw couples holding hands, right, this kind of basic thing that you take for granted here. It was always just a little sour. Everybody was always just a little hostile. And I mean just a little, right? Just enough to throw the balance off. But not this day. This day, people danced a little bit. And I guess when you think about the reason that they were dancing, it was the death of another human being. And look, on some level, a death like that diminishes us all. But if everybody was ever going to be happy about somebody passing along, it was going to be this person, Osama bin Laden. Did nobody any real favors by the end of the day. And for at least that day, my students and I and everybody else who was there, we were all on the same page with each other. And it was really good. It was cathartic. It felt really, really nice. The next day, of course, it was back to square one, and it was me against the entirety of the student body for one stupid thing or another, which was kind of like what my life was like when I was there. But that's okay. That's the job they hired me to do. It's the job I did. I still look back with great fondness on almost everybody I dealt with when I was there. I likely won't ever get back for all kinds of reasons, and that's too bad because I would like to. But there it is. And if any of you happen to be watching from back in Kurdish Iraq, really good to see you again. Drop me a note down below. I'd like to talk to you. Now, as for John Cotton, I don't even think it rises to a medium strength, which is strange given how much Latakia sits in this blend. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be overbearing, right? It has to be tasty. And this is quite tasty. If I'm going to give this one a grade, it's going to be a solid A-, real solid A-. give it a shot. I doubt you'd be unhappy with it. It is mild enough to be an all-day smoke if that's your kind of thing. I wouldn't do it. I think after a while, I get a little tired of it, want something else, but it is very, very good and worth your attention.
H-A-R-R-I-G-A-N spells Harrigan, proud of all the Irish blood that's in me.
So, the funniest thing that ever happened to me while I was in Iraq. So like I said, I was dean, but I still had to teach. I had a 1-1 teaching load when I was there. So I taught the American government to Iraqi Kurds, which is ridiculous on almost every level. And it was nice, though, because it allowed me to keep in touch with what people were doing, right? I got to hear from the students firsthand what they wanted to talk about. And we also got to have question and answer time where I would ask them questions and they would give me answers. And this took on all kinds of forms, and I'll get into some of the others later, but the truly funny one was, when I was living there, I would get home 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, and busy making myself whatever it is I could make myself for dinner. And then I would sit in front of my computer and do some work as I had my dinner. And every night at about 7 o'clock, the internet crawled to a halt. And you couldn't do a damn thing from about 7 to 8:30 or so. And after a while, you realize the pattern. It was just driving me crazy. And I went in to my class one morning. I said, look, the tech here, it's not great, but it's not terrible either, right? The internet access is pretty good. The cell service is all right. But every night at about 7:30, I can't do anything online. It just grinds to a screeching halt. Why is that? And all the guys in the class kind of went like this and looked away. And I said, what the hell? Why are you guys not looking at me? What's the deal? And there was a girl in class who specialized in being angry about everything. And she said, it is because they're all watching the pornography. Apparently that's what happened at about 7:30 or so every night in Iraq. And I had to wait until everybody stopped before I could use my computer again. And so ended the funniest 10-minute stretch of my entire time in Iraq. See you next week.